Part 70. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 694. In the Blood Pool Hell. A group of ghosts and gods listened to the conversation between their master and Shenjian. It was a hot day and they were roasted by the fire, but they were covered in cold sweat. OMG, is this a secret we can learn? Don't wait for a while and kill us to avoid future troubles. What a Buddhist country, what Ksatagarbha Bodhisattva, we are just a bunch of weak ghosts and gods, we don't want to know all this. It's different from other people's reactions. Shenjian's face showed unwarranted malice. Regardless of whether the supernatural master who controls Luo Fengtian in the 4th place is Ksatagarbha, the other party has already shown his malice towards the underworld, that is, he is the enemy of the underworld. If you are an enemy, you will be destroyed. Even the Buddha in the mythical age was the same. Thoughts are spinning. Shenjian calmed down. Anticipation for Cleopatra's return is growing. He let Cleopatra go, and Cleopatra also promised that when she returned to the deep ghost realm, she would give him a response and let him enter the 4th Luo Fengtian. As for breach of contract, Shenjian had not considered it. Because this has no benefit except making her situation more difficult. What's more, Cleopatra's attitude towards thriller games can be described as a deep hatred. How could she miss the opportunity to target thriller games? At the moment. It just takes time. Thinking. Shenjian asked again, do you know, Mother Meng? The traces of Ksatagarbha from the Buddhist kingdom were an unexpected gain. The first thing he wanted to ask was about Po Meng's whereabouts. After all, it is the key to reincarnation. To a certain extent, this is more important than recovering Luo Fengtian. The world-weary ghost was stunned. A little silence. The disembodied voice continued to circulate, the legendary god Mengpo? I don't know, but I was in the extremely dark place and heard that someone was selling a potion that makes people forget their past and present lives. The ghosts can return to their best days, and they can also wash away the karma of evil ghosts, which has been well received by people in extremely yin places. Is this, Mengpo soup? Shenjian was slightly surprised. It's possible, but according to the information I got, the effect of this potion is not permanent and can only last for a month at most, so I'm not sure it has something to do with goddess Mengpo. Hear this. Shenjian was thoughtful. There is only the 5th Luo Fengtian place that can be called an extremely yin place by beings like world-weary ghosts and gods. Unlike the 4 Luo Fengtians of the Qing kingdom, the Yilai Empire, the City of Entertainment, and the Buddha kingdom, the 5th Luo Fengtian does not have an absolute master. It is still in chaos and is still competing for the final controller. It is a chaotic place without order. But in a place like this, there is a medicine with similar effects to Mengpo decoction. It is difficult to say whether this is related to Mengpo decoction. But either way, this is a clue. And this also made him more certain that Mengpo Tang was not impossible to copy. He can definitely gather more famous doctors and gradually perfect Mengpo Tang just like he developed the #1 drug. So, even if he discovers that there is something wrong with Po Meng, he doesn't need to worry about killing her, which will completely stop the operation of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Have your doubts been answered? Does that count as atonement? At this time, the voice of the world-weary ghost brought Shenjian back to reality. Shenjian nodded slightly. He said casually, after serving 100 years in prison, you will be sent to the blood pool hell. Say it. Shenjian turned around and disappeared from here. When it reappears, he has returned to the palace of Yama. Sitting in his seat, he fell into deep thought. Today, the harvest is great. Although it's just 2 pieces of news. But no matter which one it is particularly important to the underworld. Needless to say, Po-men is an important condition for the operation of the six paths of reincarnation. Ksitigarbha, who is suspected to be an enemy of the underworld, is also a huge threat. After all, when it comes to understanding the underworld, Ksitigarbha is far above him. If the other party really has some backup plan and can take over the underworld as his own, that would be a really unfavorable crisis. He is the lord of the underworld and the king of hell of the 10 palaces, but he is not the real emperor of Fengdu yet. It can only be said that he has most of the authority of Emperor Fengdu. If he wants to truly become the great emperor of Fengdu, he still needs to continue to unlock the six paths of reincarnation. Judging from the fact that one can get a system reward by unlocking one of the six paths of reincarnation, when he unlocks the Azura path, he should also be able to get rewards. This reward, even if it is not the status of Emperor Fengdu, is most likely related to it. He had an intuition that when he fully unlocked the six paths of reincarnation, that would be the time when he truly gained full authority from Emperor Fengdu and became the undisputed lord of the underworld. Look at it this way. It is still necessary to obtain the complete authority of Qing Kingdom and Yilai Empire as soon as possible. But there is one more important thing that needs to be done right now. Shen Jian's lips trembled. The voices of ghosts and gods rang out, resounding throughout the underworld. The head of an ox and the face of a horse, the impermanence of black and white, the judge of rewards and punishments, the city god of the three places. The words fell. Less than 10 seconds. A group of figures stepped into the palace of King Yama. Lord Yanjun. Shen Jian nodded slightly. Starting today, the underworld has officially entered the operational stage. We are going to bring back all the millions of souls who died in Nanlin province. It's time for the city of wasted death and the 18th level of hell to be opened. Yang Shi, it's time to know the existence of the underworld. Yes. Until everyone leaves? A flash of light flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. In nearly 2 years, it was time for the underworld to appear. This time, the supernatural incident in Nanlin province resulted in the death of millions of people. He could not allow these ordinary people who were killed by evil spirits to be affected by the supernatural influence of this world. They gradually devoured and evolved from lonely souls and wild ghosts, and evolved into other supernatural events, which affected the expansion of the underworld. The simplest way is to bring all these dead souls back to the underworld. Those who are guilty will be sent directly to the 18 levels of hell. Those who have no sins and have merit can choose to return to the sun or stay in the underworld as errands according to their wishes. Those who are neutral between good and evil enter the city of unearned death and temporarily become residents of the underworld, waiting for the six paths of reincarnation to officially run, and then choose the place of reincarnation based on the conditions during their lifetime. This is the best way. He has read the life and death records of millions of people, and roughly 1/5 of them can return to the world, which is nearly 500,000 people. But in Shen Jian's opinion, it was still too little. Even if the original population of Nanlin province is added in, the total number has fallen below the 10 million mark, and the influx of millions of dead souls into the underworld at once will cause the city of Fuzhe to fall into chaos. Shen Jian thought for a moment. Perhaps, he should give ordinary people who are neutral in good and evil a chance. Life and death will not depend on the specific evil deeds, but will only evaluate the sum of good and evil in a person's life. Moreover, in the judgment, killing animals, even watering ants, and indirectly causing the death of someone is considered evil, but compared to killing and other things, the degree of evil is not high. Most of these people are actually good at comparison. As long as they know the existence of the underworld, it is equivalent to hanging a sword of Damocles above their heads. He admires those who dare to do evil. In this way, the souls of the dead city can be controlled within a stable range. When the underworld continues to expand, more people will be added. It's just that the workload may be a bit heavy. But this is all the work of his subordinates, not him. How can you experience the professionalism of Hell members without going to trouble? Shen Jian nodded. I think it's very reasonable. If he doesn't do it, there will be no workload. At the same time, Nanlin Province. A group of transparent gas slowly changed, gradually turning into a human form and the appearance of a young man. Lu Feng opened his eyes. His eyes were confused at first, and finally became stunned. I am. He glanced at his body pressed under the boulder, then at his transparent hands, and immediately understood what was going on. I am dead. When he said this, he felt a little scared in his heart, but more importantly, he was happy. Because he looked around. There was no one but his body. This means that others did not die here. They survived, and he saved them. Lu Feng recalled the scene at that time. 5 days ago, a legendary ghost appeared in the city and appeared in his home. The residents in the same building as him were frightened. Not moving at all. There is no way. He could only attract the ghost's attention and lure it out. But unexpectedly, he was suddenly attacked and buried by the activated wall. When he wakes up again, it became what it is now. So this is the human soul, so now I have become a ghost. Lu Feng said excitedly. He is an orphan. I grew up eating food from hundreds of families. To him, the neighbors in the building are all his family. He felt it was worth it to exchange his life for their hope of escape. Moreover, it seems that he did not die, but became a lonely ghost. Certainly. This excitement didn't last for a few seconds before he was confused. What's the use of finding out that he has become a lonely ghost? Can anyone tell me? No one can see him. Lu Feng experimented. His hands can penetrate boulders, and his body can sink into walls to achieve wall penetration. But other than that, he can't do anything. There is no one around, and he can't pick up anything. Moreover, even if there is someone, he probably can't see it. I couldn't even hear him speak. He was abandoned by this world. Just thinking about it. A strange sound of footsteps sounded beside him. A deep blue light suddenly emerged, along with an icy and gloomy chill. It was a chill that penetrated deep into the bone marrow, making people's bodies start to tremble in an instant. Even Lu Feng, who was in the state of a dead soul, trembled unconsciously. He looked in the direction of the blue light. A figure came out from there. He wears a black robe, wide sleeves, a dark complexion, and a black official hat with the words "Peace in the World" written on it. Lu Feng's pupils suddenly shrank. Black and white are impermanent. Wrong. To be more precise, it is black and impermanent. Are you here to take me away? Soon. Lu Feng reacted. Fierce ghosts seduce souls, and impermanence demands life. The so-called black and white impermanence is the messenger who seduces souls. Those who are hooked are dead souls like him. At this moment, there was only one thought left in his heart: the legendary underworld actually existed. Lu Feng, come with me. With a cold tone, Heva chain threw out the soul-seducing chain, but it did not pierce the opponent's soul body, but tied his hands. Turn around and leave. Confused. Lu Feng followed and left. When it reappears, he had arrived at a gloomy green portal. There are 3 words written on it. Gate of Hell. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 695. Qingxi Highway Toll Station. When Lu Feng came here, he found that the surrounding environment had changed. The originally bright sky suddenly turned cold, and the sky became gloomy, with gusts of dark wind blowing. The highway toll station also faded at this moment, turning into a dark mountain gate. A miserable green mist rose up, dyeing everything into the color of the underworld, making it eerie and terrifying. The mountain gate is empty and vast. Engraved on the blood-embroidered horizontal plaque are 3 characters, Gate of Hell. The stone gates on both sides are inscribed with couplets. The King of Hell wants you to die at the 3rd watch, how can he keep you until the 5th watch? This is, the Gate of Hell? The entrance to the underworld. Seeing the legendary Gate of Hell appear in front of him, Lu Feng's heart was beating so fast that he felt like his throat was about to jump out. First there were ghosts, then He Va Chang, and now I saw the Gate of Hell again. Stepping into the Gate of Hell, did he really enter the legendary underworld? What truth is this world hiding from him? He was shocked. A glance out of the corner of my eye. Suddenly, another figure emerged from the mist. The visitor was dressed in white, wearing an ancient official hat, with a long scarlet tongue sticking out, and his face was as pale as white paper. Bai Va Chang. Lu Feng's pupils trembled. Recognized the person's identity. Like He Va Chang beside him, Bai Va Chang also held a chain in his hand. On the other end of the chain, several dead souls like him were bound. Every time Bai Va Chang took a step, the bound souls moved with difficulty. One step later, he was in a state of panic. Especially when he saw the 3 characters Ghost Gate, he collapsed to the ground. He wanted to run away, but was pulled back. The other end. A tall figure with a bull head and a horse face walked past Lu Feng. The clanging sound of chains echoed here. Behind him, cries continued. Bullhead and horse noodles. Just when Lu Feng had this idea in his mind, He Va Chang had already taken him into the Gate of Hell. Pass through the gates of hell. Then we entered a grey world. The black soil under his feet seemed to be alive. With every step he took, he could feel that the ground was trying to swallow him and bury him. Further ahead, a wide road comes into view. Old, rough, showing the original appearance of cement and soil. Huanquan Road. With this idea in mind, Lu Feng embarked on this road. Halfway through, a voice began to call him, the voice getting clearer and louder. Xiao Feng. Xiao Feng, where are you going? The voice penetrated his ears like a demonic sound, and he couldn't help but turn around. He happened to see the folks in the building who had raised him appear here, reaching out to him to take him away. He couldn't help but reach out his hand. Death is like a lamp going out. You should forget all your past lives. Otherwise, if you deviate from the road to hell, you will become a lonely soul who can only stay in the underworld and cannot be reincarnated because of your obsession. At this time, He Va Chang suddenly spoke. Lu Feng was startled and woke up immediately, looking at the villagers who were leaving in the distance with lingering fear. At the same time, he looked at He Va Chang with some curiosity. He didn't understand why this underworld handsome man wanted to remind him. He Va Chang said nothing. He just glanced at Lu Feng with cold eyes. A few days ago, Master Yan Jun asked them to bring millions of dead souls from Nanlin province back to the underworld, and according to the requirements, select those with meritorious deeds, those with serious sins, and those who are neutral between good and evil. And the person in front of him is a meritorious person. And the merits are profound. If he can stay in the underworld as an errand, he will most likely become a city god in the future, and as the supervisor who recommended Lu Feng, he will also receive a lot of credit. Therefore, only then did he want to speak out and wake him up. Of course, he couldn't force Lu Feng to be a spy, as this was an illegal operation. Let's go. The words fell. He Va Chang continued to pull Lu Feng forward. A black lake blocked the way. At the end of the lake, bright red light dyed half of the lake red, and bright red flowers bloomed on the other side. On the bridge, there is an ancient arch bridge standing on both sides. Death River, flowers on the other side, Nahi Bridge. Lu Feng passed by one. Even though it was only his first time entering the underworld and seeing everything in the underworld for the first time, he still recognized these famous wonders. Nothing else. The legend of the underworld is so famous. It is so famous that any person can accurately name these underworld buildings. Soon, he came to a magnificent palace at the end. Qin Guangwang Palace. Faced with these big characters, all the dead souls who came here were as silent as a chill. Even the most ferocious criminals, the most inhumane thugs, and the underworld who are immune to the law, all have their heads lowered at this moment and dare not breathe a single breath. I was afraid that something might happen if I breathed heavily. Lu Feng looked. In front of King Qin Guang's palace, there is a huge stone mirror. The dead souls made moves in front of the mirror one after another, and were then taken away by Yinsha. A sentence came to his mind: there are no good people in front of the evil mirror. No doubt. This is the legendary Nightai mirror. You can tell where the ghost should go by looking at the evil things it did during its lifetime. But when a good soul stands in front of the evil mirror, it will only be empty. His eyes scanned. Those ghosts who had ghosts in their hearts, had done wrong things, and committed evil deeds were all trembling and looking panicked. After all, no one would have thought that the legendary underworld actually existed. The sins they committed during their lifetime will be fully borne after their death. To this, Lu Feng took a look at his life. His life was very simple. Before the age of 18, he grew up eating a lot of food. After he turned 18, he completed his studies through part-time work, joined in the work, and had a close relationship with the folks in the building. He never had any thoughts of hatred. Even before he died, what he thought about was that it was worth using his own life in exchange for the survival of others. There were no big regrets in his life. Not long after, he took a photo in front of the Nightai mirror. The stone mirror was empty and glowing with a faint light. He Vuchang smiled and said, "Lu Feng, you have two choices now: return to the sun, or stay in the underworld as an errand." On errand? Yes, ghosts are rampant in this world. I believe you have seen it. By becoming an underworld agent, you can save more people. Moreover, you have the opportunity to become a city god because you have a high starting point. I've been a spy, can I still go out? He Vuchang paused for a moment and said mysteriously, "The duty of Yin Chai is to go out and patrol major cities. I can arrange for you to patrol the city where your home is and become Yin Chai. You can reshape your soul body. Although you can't take the initiative to interfere in the affairs of the world, but no one will object to some care." Hear this. Lu Feng was silent for a moment. He said firmly, "Okay, I choose to stay in the underworld and work as an errand. Although my life is not perfect, I am satisfied. I want to choose another way of life. The underworld welcomes you." He Vuchang smiled sincerely. "A new city god's temple will be built soon in your city. If you work hard enough, you can be elected. By then, you can bless the whole place and protect the peace of the whole place. Of course, this requires the consent of the King of Hell." "What kind of person is Lord Yama?" Lu Feng asked curiously. "The legendary Lord of Hell, he believes that no one is not curious." He Vuchang pointed in one direction. "There is the palace of Yama. The lights are bright. Faintly, it seems that a mysterious and majestic figure can be seen, handling government affairs inside. You see, according to you humans, Master Yan Jun is a considerate and diligent boss who cares for his subordinates. He stays up late to deal with affairs every day until the employees get off work, and he is also a good boss who protects his shortcomings and is generous." Lu Feng heard about it in awe. As the Lord of Hell, he is so responsible. Apart from anything else, from this point alone, he could know how great the brilliance of Yama's humanity was. No wonder He Vuchang can be admired and worshipped so much. Will he become an employee of Lord Yama from now on? It always feels a bit unreal. At the same time, Yama Palace. Lin Yan, the protagonist trained by world-weary ghosts and gods, is currently sitting in the deputy seat. According to the requirements set by Shen Jian, he carefully handles the information handed over by Yinze, selects a list of people who can return Yang, and compiles it into a book. He had extremely dark circles under his eyes. His eyes were full of resentment. Looking at the mountains of information, I almost collapsed. He still vaguely remembered what Shen Jian, oh no, his eldest father said to him before he left. Yan'er, I'm going to take care of your mother. You can handle these lists and compile them into a book before giving them to me. I believe you. Damned. Leave him to deal with the information on these millions of dead souls while he takes care of his mother. This horse riding thing is nothing. He was suffering, but Shen Jian was hugging his mother, saying love words and doing some things he loved. Gan. The other side. Entertainment City Zero Farm Copy. After taking over all the authority of the Entertainment City, Shen Jian can now enter and exit the place freely. Recently, he has been staying at Su's medical center, chatting with the beautiful woman Suji. Xiao Shen, is Yana really okay? He has been missing for several days. Suji nestled in Shen Jian's arms, her cheeks rosy. Apparently, the two had just had a fierce physical fight. At this moment, Shen Jian gently held the temples of the beautiful woman in his arms and kissed her earlobe. Suji trembled. She felt something abnormal coming from her body, and there was a body structure that didn't belong to her, sticking behind her. Xiao Shen, you think again, spare Entji. If you come again, I won't be able to bear it. The beautiful woman is coquettish. He was obviously a little afraid of Shen Jian. While feeling happy, I couldn't help but clutch my lower back. This little Shen is good at everything, but it happens too often. Maybe it's because of youth. She was even scared of a red-clothed level ghost. Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. Entji, Xiao Yan is an adult now. He has his own things to do, and I can assure you that he is fine now. I asked him to help me with something, and now, I guess just work hard. You guys have such a good relationship, so I'm relieved. I'm worried that you won't be able to accept Xiao Yan. How could that happen? But Entji, you can't favor one over the other. Xiao Yan has grown up and can't stay with you for a long time. I hope to have a child that belongs to us. I believe that Xiao Yan will also like to have an extra sibling. Disgusting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 696. Time flies. A month goes by in a blink of an eye. Because of the invasion plan of world-weary ghosts and gods, millions of people died in Nanlin province, and a large number of souls needed to be brought back to the underworld for unified processing. It can be said that this is the busiest period since the reconstruction of the underworld. More than 30,000 yinmen were divided into day shift, night shift, and double shift, working day and night to bring the souls of the dead back to the underworld one by one. Then through the nighttime mirror, the 5 land city gods simply sorted it out. It is worth mentioning that Shen Jian has handed over the position of city god of Qingxi to Wei Wuliang, the first human ghost to enter the underworld and who was recognized by Shen Jian as the successor of the city god. He is a native of Qingxi. Shen Jian became a ghost master before. Although he was not a horror game player, he controlled 2 ghost puzzles by chance in the real world and solved many supernatural incidents for Qingxi. In the end, due to his old age, his decaying body could no longer withstand the erosion caused by the supernatural, and he could no longer control the 3rd ghost, so he died in the Ghost Controller Hospital. Although it is not the end of life, it is still a very exciting life. Shen Jian had already determined that he would become the Qingxi city god. Another new city god is the green-skinned Ghost King. The leader of the 10,000 ghost sect brought out by Shen Jian from Nanli Ghost Town was once his enemy, but under the influence of his love and justice, he had abandoned the dark side and turned to the bright side and became a member of the underworld. He is the city god of Duchuan City, Ziping Province. At the beginning, Shen Jian had promised that if he could maintain order in a city, he would be made the local city god. Now, it can be regarded as fulfilling the promise. At the same time, the data processed by the city god of the five lands will be sent to the palace of King Yama, and according to his requirements, targets who can return yang will be screened out. Shen Jian handed over this job to the protagonist Lin Yan. In fact, it should be the ghost teacher who handles the affairs of the palace of Yama. The other party is the civil judge, one of the four major judges he identifies, who specializes in handling the business of the king of hell. But who told him to be at Lin Yan's mother's house now? If you don't give the protagonist something to do, if he goes home, he will have to cover up, which is not pretty. Anyway, Lin Yan can be regarded as an entrepreneurial tycoon. He founded Tianshan Temple from scratch. Shen Jian still believes in the data coordination aspect. Again, he will choose it again at the end to prevent mistakes. Crunch. Ching ching, I am in the middle. The door to the second floor of Su's medical center was pushed open. Suro, the ghost professor, walked in wearing a professional teacher's outfit, wrapped in a black short skirt, and exposing her long legs. Hear sounds. The beautiful woman suddenly sat up from Shen Jian's arms. After adjusting her clothes, she picked up the open neckline and half-stripped dress, and glanced at the visitor with a blushing face. Suji frowned fiercely when she saw it was her sister. She was basically sure that her sister had some thoughts about her man, otherwise she wouldn't have been a guest at her house for a month and almost regarded this place as her own home. Suro, are you free? If you don't work well as your professor, why would you cross a city all day long to come to my place? I remember you have a house over there in the university town, don't you? The beautiful woman said angrily. He wanted to let the sister leave, but he couldn't bring himself to do so. Sister, didn't I tell you that I'm studying psychology on my own recently and am preparing to take the exam for a psychology expert's certificate? Don't I want to verify the effect? With my young husband here, this is a ready-made example. Why should I look for it? Other stinky men. Suro blinked. Ignore your sister's attitude. Little husband, you will be my experimental subject, right? No, this time it's me. If you need experimental samples, how can one be enough? Even if you want to perform surgery, you need to find a different case to prove your level. Suji stood up. Looking directly at his sister, there was a bit of vigilance in his eyes. Suro's eyes moved slightly, and there was something strange in her eyes. It's okay, but the sofa side is too soft, which is not conducive to my performance. Come to the dining table, and the young lady husband will also come over, and I will compare it. Shen Jian just walked over. Suji pulled him to sit next to her, as if to declare her sovereignty. Suro didn't care either. Sit opposite. He took out the teaching materials very professionally and started a conversation with his sister. Shen Jian listened. Suddenly, he seemed to notice something, and his expression changed. He glanced under the dining table without leaving any trace. I saw a long white leg stretched out from the opposite side and placed on him. The 5 crystal toes flexed slightly, moving around on him. What are you rubbing against? Shen Jian's expression changed even more obviously. She looked at the ghost Professor Suro with some surprise. This sister-in-law is really bold. How dare she touch her brother-in-law in front of her sister? This is a naked provocation to Suji. However, the beautiful woman Suji seemed not to notice anything and listened carefully to her sister's conversation. Moment. Suro seemed to feel that one foot was not enough, so she stretched out both feet at the same time. Shen Jian could clearly feel the strange feeling brought by the 10 toes. This feeling is amazing. Moment. Okay, sister, I've got your control group, now it's my husband's turn. Suro's eyes were a little rosy. He looked at Shen Jian with a hint of charm. Shen Jian looked over. My mood is also ups and downs. This kind of morally bankrupt sister-in-law will not pay for her life if she seduces people. Think about it. Shen Jian said, Aunt Ji, I want to eat fruit. Okay, I'll cut it for you. The beautiful woman just left. Suro stood up, crossed the dining table, and pulled Shen Jian close. Red lips are offered. You and my sister are developing very fast. Next time you come to my house, I have a surprise for you. Parted lips. Suro's cheeks felt hot, and while she felt ashamed, an emotion called excitement occupied most of her thoughts. Let her become more immersed in this atmosphere. If one day, I can do it in front of my sister. Thinking of this possibility, Suro despised herself in her heart and felt that she was really a bad sister. Even if her sister did not forgive her, she would understand. But on the other hand, she was like a moth to a flame, unable to resist this urge. Not long after, when the beautiful woman came out with the fruit, the two of them sat in their respective places as if nothing had happened. Only, what Suji didn't see was that on Suro's toes. When Shen Jian returns to the real world, it's already a month later. During this period, he lingered between the two sisters, and the ghost Professor Suro tried her best to teach the young husband taboos in all aspects in front of his sister. Shen Jian was even a little intoxicated by it. Yama Palace. Looking at the list of 1 million people who have returned to the Yangtze River, and the main character Lin Yan lying on the table with his eyes blank and in a trance, Shen Jian thought for a while. She patted him on the shoulder and encouraged him, Xiao Yan, if you can endure hardship now, you will be able to endure more hardship in the future. Lin Yan. He rolled his eyes at Shen Jian. Is there anything so comforting? You feel so good about letting go of the shopkeeper. I have processed millions of lists day and night, and now I have ghost images of everything I see. You tell me, there will be more opportunities to endure hardship in the future. Gan, what poisonous chicken soup? Well, I have some good news for you. See this. Shen Jian said again. What good news? You're going to be a brother soon. Lin Yan. His pupils were startled. Then he reacted. Damn it, do you want to give this man another child? In other words, during his hard work for a month, this man actually ate and lived with his mother, and they became a family. When he thought about his mother being occupied by a man of his own age, and wanting to give birth to this man's child so that he could have a half-brother and sister, his mood became very subtle. True. He was indeed impressed by Shen Jian's power and strength. Previously, he even called Dad in front of the public. But he still didn't know how to feel about his mother being snatched away. He could only look at Dad in front of him with resentful eyes. To this, Shen Jian was in a good mood. Ignoring the resentful look of this cheap and good boy, he carefully checked the list of 1 million copies. Lin Yan explained awkwardly, these are all selected based on your requirements. Those with meritorious deeds will return Yang unconditionally, and those with mixed good and evil deeds will be judged based on the dangerous deeds of evil deeds and specific deeds of good deeds. The total is so much. Shen Jian nodded slightly. Not really surprising. In this world, there are indeed only a small number of people who truly have the subjective consciousness to do evil. By screening according to this standard, a large number of people can naturally be screened out. More than 1 million people, which was about what he expected. For a long time, Shen Jian turned over the last portion. Lin Yan's ability was given the greatest recognition. The selection was completely based on the requirements he set, and there was no problem. That being the case, There is no need to review anything. Just return Yang directly. The remaining hundreds of thousands of dead souls with heavy bad karma are staying in the city of wasted death, waiting for the final verdict. Real world. At that time, Nanlin province was still in the process of reconstruction. Still has not regained its former prosperity. But on this day, in countless morgues, in coffins, and underground, a large number of ordinary people, fake corpses, caused huge panic. Daxia Longke headquarters received the news immediately. What? Someone has been resurrected again? How many are there? Unable to count. What's the meaning? It means that there are too many people who have been resurrected and cannot be counted in a short time. But judging from this trend, the number of people who have been resurrected this time is at least 1 million. Moreover, the first thing they said after they were resurrected was, I saw the underworld. As soon as these words came out, everyone fell into deathly silence. 1 million people were resurrected, which accounted for almost 2/3 of the casualties in Nanlin province. In other words, in this supernatural incident in Nanlin province, only a few 100,000 people actually died. Distributed to major cities, this proportion is even smaller. More than a month later, the underworld has sent us a surprise. Moreover, for those who entered the underworld did not erase their memories and allowed them to return to the Yang world with their memories of the underworld. There's going to be a big mess. Qian Quan's breath twitched slightly. Underworld is no longer planning to hide their existence. At the same time, Shen Jian opened the game panel. Search. It has been detected that the player has used Qingguo's authority and scanning has started. Scanning. Scan completed. Location, Qingguo. Shen Jian. His facial muscles twitched slightly. Now, he still has 3 dragon energy left to collect. One is in the extremely yin place of Luo Fengtian in the 5th place. One is located in the Qingguo Imperial Palace. There is one missing trace. What he wanted to find most was the last clue to the dragon's energy. But this time, his luck didn't seem to be very good, and he directly searched for the Qingguo Imperial Palace. This luck and max is really useless. Think about it. Shen Jian still decided to enter Qingguo according to the location he searched for according to his authority. After all, if you don't enter this time, you will have to wait another month. He didn't want to wait. If the supernatural incident in Nanlin province had not had such a huge impact, more than a month would have been enough for him to complete a new round of dungeons. Think of this. Shen Jian did not hesitate. Choose to enter Qingguo. It has been detected that the player is a 5-star player and relevant permissions have been enabled. Players can choose a dungeon with a star rating of no less than 5 stars from uncompleted hidden tasks to enter. If there are no uncompleted hidden tasks, they will be randomly matched. It is detected that the player carries the Wrath of the Eternal Night King hidden mission, the hidden plot of the Princess of Daking mission, and can enter the Qingguo dungeon. Whether to enter? Yes. Matched. Entering. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 697. Soon. The fonts on the scarlet panel kept emerging. Copy designated. 5-star player permissions have been enabled, and the Qingguo dungeon has been selected. It is detected that the player is wearing the title of Dungeon Collapser, and the game becomes more difficult. If a player is detected wearing the title Ghost Seeing Sorrow, the copy will have a certain chance of mutating. It has been detected that the player carries Hate of Emperor Qing and Grudge of Prince Daking, and the current copy has a limit of -80 favorability. It has been detected that the player has continued the unfinished hidden plot mission and has actively joined the Daking Princess camp. It cannot be changed. The current copy will be anchored to the correct timeline. The copy is loading. You have completed the match. Copy, 9 Sun sees the direct descendants. Content: an accident caused the prince to lose all his majesty. The Daking emperor took back his power to supervise the country. He was imprisoned in the East Palace and awakened. The Qing emperor's unusual attitude allowed the princes to see opportunities and participate in government affairs one after another. Starting the 9 sons, he seizes the throne and tries to sit on the throne of the prince. Number of players: 20 people. Main mission: select a prince lineup to join this magnificent battle for the replacement of imperial power. Side mission: assist the selected prince in seizing the heir apparent. Task tips: people with discernment are often very relaxed. Difficulty: 5 stars. Warning: this 5-star copy cannot be exited. You must persist until the battle for inheritance is over before leaving. As the scarlet panel flashed by, the scene in front of him has undergone earth-shaking changes. Shen Jian opened his eyes. Found yourself in a dungeon. Wearing prison uniform. Shen Jian? His eyes were slightly stunned. This place seemed familiar to him. It's like I've been here. But it was not the first time he entered the capital prison in Qingguo, but the death row not far from the capital prison. At first, he followed the chamberlain's wife into this place to visit the third-grade chamberlain officer who was sentenced to death, and then played with his wife behind his back in front of the chamberlain officer. Therefore, he is quite familiar with this place. At the beginning of this time, he changed from a jailer in the capital to a prisoner on death row. Shen Jian looked a little strange. Just thinking about it. Other players also arrived one after another. Landed in a cell near him. Unlike his single room, the other 19 players were divided into 3 cells. It's a multi-person room. But his cell was the deepest part of death row and was laid out horizontally. The rest of the prisons are divided into 2 sides. It gives the impression that he is an important person on death row and a prisoner under special supervision. Shen Jian looked around. There are 6 or 7 players in each of the cells on both sides. The lowest level is also above level 40. Level 50 players also account for 1/3. Some of a player with the ID of King Quan caught Shen Jian's attention. This is a man who looks to be in his 30s. His forehead hair is very long, covering his eyes. The beard on his chin has not been trimmed cleanly, leaving a conspicuous stubble, giving people a sloppy look. But no one here dared to underestimate the other party. Because this sloppy player's game level reached as high as level 62, which reached an appalling level 5-star player. Damn it, level 62, what kind of god level is this? Is this a player who entered the dungeon in the early stages of the horror game and survived to this day? Huh? You don't know him? He is Wan Quan. Royal power? It sounds very familiar. I seem to have heard of it somewhere. After a brief silence, the players stared across the cell at the slovenly man who said nothing. Couldn't it be the royal power I heard about? Other than him, who else dares to bear this ID? He seems to be the only 5-star player in the entire Dragon Kingdom. Wait a minute, you guys are making me a little dizzy. Are you talking about the kingship of the number 1 person in the supernatural world? If not. As soon as these words came out, all the players in the audience gasped again. The number 1 person in the supernatural circle of the Dragon Kingdom, this is a title that can only be obtained by the strongest ghost controller in the Dragon Kingdom. This means that he is the strongest in the entire Dragon Kingdom. ID Wan Quan, whose surname is Wan Quan, is said to be the 0 player who participated in the game copy at the beginning of the Invasion of Thriller game. Although he has not joined any forces, he is still a casual cultivator to this day, but his name is unknown to everyone. No one knows. Even the great Xiaolongke headquarters invited this person to join them again and again. But even if he offered the opponent a position as a patrol officer who could monitor ghost controllers across the country, he was still rejected. Due to its terrifying strength, Xiaolongke was helpless. You can only let the other party become a Lone Ranger. Such a big boss actually participated in the same copy as them. Even though they were all top 4-star players, they still felt like they were chasing stars at close range. At this time, all the players looked at the sloppy man with the ID of King Quan and didn't know how to react. But suddenly, they noticed that the king's powerful man suddenly set his sights on the special cell in the deepest part of the death row. The face covered by his forehead burst out with a flash of light, revealing a pair of full-faced eyes. Dead eyes. This change was naturally noticed by players. Hey, he's not that, Yama. At level 60, he's also a 5-star player. Hear this. Other players also looked over. I saw Shen Jian, who was in a separate cell and enjoying VIP level treatment. The pupils trembled again. Holy shit. It's indeed a 5-star dungeon. It's matched with high-quality players. There are only 1 or 2 5-star players in the entire Dragon Kingdom. I didn't expect that we would run into them all. Yamluo, the person in charge of Qing City, is a living Buddha player who only exists on the Supernatural Forum. He specializes in helping players pass the level without asking for anything in return. In terms of reputation, he has greater power than the king, and some people say that Yama is the real number 1 in the supernatural circle. One person. Awesome, these 2 big daddies are not only 5-star players, but they are also strong contenders for the number 1 spot in the supernatural world. Why do I feel that even if it is a 5-star dungeon, with the 2 of them here, we are confident that we can pass it? All the players spoke to each other. His face showed excitement. It's not unusual to encounter a player with a higher level than yourself in a game copy, but to meet 2 players in a row who are known as the number 1 in the supernatural world is like winning the lottery. Hear these sounds. Shen Jian's eyes were also somewhat surprised. Is this player the number 1 person in the supernatural circle who only exists in his ears? Very strong indeed. He controlled 4 fierce ghosts. One of them is still a complete ghost. The level of yin energy has approached the level of the abyss ghost. The Ghost King's yin chi value is 10,000, and the yin chi value of the abyss level ghost is 30,000. And this player's own yin chi has reached 20,000. Coupled with the other 3 ghosts jigsaw he controls, he may be able to temporarily compete with the abyss level Ghost King. In terms of strength, he is indeed the strongest player he has ever seen. 5-star players are indeed on 2 different levels from 4-star players. No wonder Thriller Games doesn't allow 5-star players to participate in dungeons with a star rating lower than 4 stars. For players below 4 stars, there is basically no difficulty at all for players above level 60. How could a Thriller game do such an easy thing? Shen Jian was thoughtful, looking at each other with interest. Just now, he seemed to see a fleeting surge of strong emotions from this king, but he took it back in just a tenth of a second. Just thinking about it? The scarlet panel emerged. Side mission has been activated. It has been detected that the player has been put on death row and will be sentenced to death within a year. The first phase of the side mission has been activated. The first stage of the side mission, escape from death row. Content: the death row is heavily guarded and guarded by 5 top ghost kings. Breaking out by force will trigger a warning from the Imperial Guard. It is impossible to escape from the prison illegally. Players need to get out of the death row through normal means within 1 year. Task tips: escape through illegal means will result in the direct failure of subsequent side missions. Note: many places require death row prisoners to complete. See this. The expressions of the players changed drastically. Death row? Being sentenced to death within a year? 5 top Ghost King guards, and the Imperial Guards? This one is too strict. Not to mention escaping from prison, being able to walk out of the cell door is a question. Look at the meaning of the game panel. Once you break out through illegal means, you may become a wanted criminal. Naturally, a wanted criminal will not be able to join the lineup of the princes of the Qing Kingdom. This is equivalent to locking in the failure of the mission in advance. But, don't thriller games think too highly of us? How can we afford to illegally escape from prison? One player was speechless. This mission prompt is definitely a joke. They are a group of 4-star players, even if they include 2 5-star players, Yama and Wan Quan, they are no match for the 5 top Ghost Kings. The opportunity for this game prompt was simply wasted. Just the first stage of a side mission is so difficult. It is hard for them to imagine how difficult the main mission of the 9 Suns to seize the air will be. The legendary 5-star dungeon showed how powerful he was from the very beginning. This has left many players at a loss. No thoughts? They subconsciously looked at the only 5-star player in the crowd, but found that neither Wan Quan nor Yamalugo made any move. Apparently, they were also helpless. See this. The other players could only remain silent. Leaning against the cold and clammy wall, quietly waiting for something. Not long after, there was a sound of footsteps. 2 jailers walked in pushing the prison cart. In each cell, a large round bowl was placed. The players looked. In the bowl was some slimy stuff. Like food. For details, please refer to the hometown of the Indian guy. Just seeing it makes people lose their appetite. The only thing that was edible was hard bread that was so dry that it had no moisture at all. Is this food for death row inmates? That's what I thought. One of the jailers looked ferocious and sneered, I know you are all famous figures outside, but here, you are all death row prisoners and will be taken out for execution at any time. You can eat some, which is already pretty good. Say it. The jailers ignored the crowd. Just go away. A group of players looked at this edible food and had the intention not to eat it, but when they thought that they were likely to stay here for a long time, if they didn't eat it, even they who controlled the ghosts would not be able to eat it. Can't resist. But at this time, they found that there was no food in front of Shenjian's cell. Like it was deliberately forgotten. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 698. What's the situation? All the players looked at the empty space in front of Shenjian's cell, feeling a little surprised. They are also on death row. They all have food. Why doesn't Shenjian? And they thought of a problem they hadn't noticed before. That's why Shenjian has a single room. It is also located in the deepest part of death row and is also the most special cell. In terms of game level, it should be the number 1 person in the supernatural circle with the ID kingdom who lives in this cell. Or is it that in the judgment of the thriller game, Yama is stronger than King Quan? Players have different ideas. But they still had no idea why Shenjian was treated differently. They could only think that the cell probably had some special meaning, otherwise it wouldn't be a single room. According to their understanding, those who live in this cell are either extremely powerful criminals who need to be treated seriously by the entire Qing kingdom, or big shots with special status. Think of this. They temporarily gave up the idea of helping. This was only the first day, so they couldn't afford to stand out. If they are targeted by the jailers here for this reason, their life will not be easy. The other side. Shenjian's eyebrows were slightly surprised. Is this the beginning of targeting? The only thing he could think of was the -80 favorability points displayed on the panel before the game started. In the Eternal Night Kingdom dungeon, he was targeted by Emperor Qing because he took away the secret of the Qing Kingdom royal family, the blood sacrifice soul pill method. Once he entered the territory of Qing Kingdom, Emperor Qing's lineup in the dungeon was hostile to him. Favorability automatically changes to -100. In the Nanjiang District Hegemony Tournament, he entered the Qing Kingdom dungeon for the first time. Because when the prince was supervising the country, he broke into the palace and executed a prince in public, which greatly reduced the majesty of the royal family. As a result, he was hated by the prince. The prince's lineup, the favorability towards him is also automatically changed to -80. The combination of the two resulted in him entering the Qing Kingdom dungeon for the second time, with a hatred of -80 at the beginning. The death row was originally established by the royal family to execute some murderers who seriously endangered the safety of the Qing Kingdom. It served the royal family. Can also be regarded as a member of Emperor Qing. It seems normal to have such behavior. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. I'm used to it. Since receiving the passive title Dungeon Collapser, he has become accustomed to this kind of difficult start. If the horror game did not give him some restrictions, he would really not be used to it. Thinking. A line of scarlet panels that only Shen Jian could see appeared. It has been detected that the player lineup has been fixed and cannot be changed. Current lineup, the eldest princess of Daking is here. Note, since the camp has been determined, except for the eldest princess, the favorability of the other princes will automatically be -30. Shen Jian glanced at it. Look back. Now, everyone really has a good impression. According to Thriller Games, this dungeon is called 9 Suns to Seize the Air, and the content of the main mission is to select any prince to join the battle for the air. The eldest princess Milan is obviously not within the scope of seizing the legitimate sun. In other words, she cannot participate in the fight for the crown prince's position. Belongs to the heir who was eliminated from the beginning. If the remaining 9 princes only need to defeat the first 8 to inherit the crown prince's position, then the eldest princess must not only defeat the other princes with an absolute advantage, but also let the emperor see that the crown prince's position belongs to her and she is the only one to succeed. Only then can we lead the Qing kingdom to the pinnacle of great achievements, and only then can we hope to reach Dabao. This difficulty is more than 10 times more difficult than other princes. From the fact that there was only one Wuzation and one empress in ancient times, we can see how difficult it is for women to succeed to the throne. Even Queen Yanjai inherited the throne as a man when she first succeeded to the throne. She did not dare to return to her daughter's body until she completely replaced her subordinates with her own people. At this point, the eldest princess Miaolin was not satisfied. It is simply wishful thinking for her to succeed in seizing the throne. Shen Jian was thoughtful. It seems that we still have to find the eldest princess first. As for this, let's use a paper man instead. Just thinking about it. There was a cry of surprise outside the prison. Those were the voices of other prisoners, roaring and shouting excitedly. It was like seeing something that didn't belong in a prison. All the players looked over curiously. I saw a gust of fragrance coming from the aisles on both sides of the cell, and then rows of veiled maids walked past them carrying exquisite trays. Inside the tray, a strong fragrance hits. It makes people unable to stop salivating. Not only the ghosts on death row, but also the human players were a little unable to resist this scent. That is the ghost puzzle in their bodies, longing for this fragrance. What are you doing? Are we still imprisoning a prince or other royal relative here? Some players were confused. His eyes were full of salivation. The scent is unmistakable, it's a flesh-eating ghost. And it is food cooked by at least 2-star flesh-seeing ghosts, which will make them, as humans, have a big appetite. I can't wait to rush out and eat all this food. Who knows, my God, it's so luxurious. There are so many foods that have a nourishing effect on ghosts. If you eat them all, might you be able to break through the Ghost King directly? Their eyes were burning, and they couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. It would be too extravagant to eat enough resources to break through the Ghost King in one meal. You must know that most of them do not have the capital to compete with the Ghost King, but in this 5-star dungeon, they saw the resources of a Ghost King being consumed in one meal. This phenomenon impacted their 3 outlooks. This is a death row, who has such great arrogance. All kinds of confusion appeared in their minds. They couldn't help but wonder who had so much power on death row. Soon, the maids have reached the end of death row. The two jailers who had previously scolded the death row inmates rushed over and opened the door of Shen Jian's cell. Instantly, one by one, the maids arranged the tables neatly, and plates of delicacies were placed in front of Shen Jian. Delicate voices sounded from the mouths of these maids. "Master Shen, I hope you can forgive me. Due to time constraints, His Highness only had time to prepare these. I hope you won't dislike it." All the death row prisoners, all players, they froze in place. Everyone was confused. Damn it! What's going on with this horse riding? We are also players. Why are we eating pig food with bread, and you are eating a full banquet? I'm sorry, the reason why the jailer didn't prepare food for you just now is because there is better food. And quietly, these two jailers looked down upon others. When they first faced them, they were arrogant and looked like villains who had succeeded. Now facing Shen Jian, they looked like pugs and dog slaves. Gan. This isn't fair. At this time, on death row, everyone was jealous. Everyone wanted to know, which royal relative could reach into the death row and ask the maid to deliver such high-quality food. Does this mean he regards the death row as his home? Wrong. We have never had such a high-level dinner at home. This must be at the level of a prince, and must be a prince with real power, and it must be treated only at large family banquets, right? All the players were equally horrified and confused. They all came together, at most they were a few seconds faster. How did Shen Jian do all this? Even if you use supernatural powers and hypnotize the jailer, you can't do this. This can only be achieved on such a large scale if everyone on death row has his own people. At the same time, Shen Jian looked at the food in front of him and at the respectful maids, with a flash of surprise in his eyes. Soon, he just thought of something. "Eldest princess knows I'm here?" Shen Jian asked. The leading maid lowered her eyes and said respectfully, "Master Shen is very discerning. Your Highness is currently dealing with some urgent matters. I apologize for not being able to come in person. Your Highness said she will be here soon. When Lord Shen goes out, His Highness will hold another dinner for Lord Shen." Shen Jian nodded slightly. The look of surprise in his eyes persisted. It was really arranged by the eldest princess of Daking. No matter how many times he saw it, His Highness' trump card still made him look at him differently. While in prison, she can control the situation in the imperial court, and her intelligence collection work is also done very well. There are still her people occupying high positions within Yaoshan, who can help him rise from the 4th level to the rank of governor. Now, Her Royal Highness, the eldest princess, left the prison and entered the sea again. She was able to discover his traces in such a short period of time and held a large-scale family banquet for him in the death row. It is no exaggeration to say that his hands and eyes can reach the sky. And this entire death row was probably under the control of the eldest princess. Shen Jian's eyes showed some emotion. He was wrong. This time, although the horror game is still increasing the difficulty for him, making his start very difficult, under the operation of the eldest princess, the start directly becomes the novice mode, which is still led by NPC. Then, Shen Jian sat down, enjoying this rare and comfortable start. At this moment, the deepest cell on death row, more than 10 maids stood aside. Just like serving the master, some people handed over the delicious food on the plate, while others danced on the side. And Shen Jian didn't even need to move his hands. Wherever he looked, the maid would pick it up immediately, obediently. If these maids were to take off their clothes on the spot, they would not object at all. Instead, they would try their best to satisfy Shen Jian. He looks like an aristocratic person who indulges in wine and meat. It made the death row inmates in other cells almost have pink eyes. They looked at the pig food in their hands, then at the delicious food in front of Shen Jian, and then at the row of maids who served Shen Jian with all their heart, and they were so envious that their back molars almost broke. MMP, listen, you MMP. This scene. It directly detonated the whole place. The roar echoed endlessly. Everyone is accusing Shen Jian of being a bastard. They are all on death row. If they eat the same food, they will not have any reaction. If they eat something more advanced, they will feel that it is a decapitation meal and full of mercy. But switching to this kind of delicacy, this is obviously beyond the scope of deprivation. It is someone using their power to enjoy life. This is the kind of person they hate the most. For a while, Shen Jian became the focus of the audience. The fastest time to attract hatred has been refreshed. It took less than half an hour to attract the hatred of the entire death row. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 699. After meal. The maids collected the dishes and left quickly. Seeing these veiled and slim female ghosts, the death row inmates in the cells were filled with envy. His eyes were full of lust and evil. Most of them had been in the death row next door for a long time before arriving at the death row. They had not seen a woman for who knows how long, let alone such a looming, outstanding and appetizing treasure. Every time they thought of this, their hatred for Shen Jian deepened. The man who was imprisoned in the deepest part of the death row deserved to die. Little pretty face, who are you? I don't seem to have seen you among the royal relatives. At this time, a deep voice sounded from the fourth to last row of cells in the deepest part of the death row. The voice was somewhat solemn. All the players looked at it. I saw 5 prisoners being held together in that cell, 4 of them huddled in the corner, watching a tall figure eating all the food for 5 people. There was no anger in their eyes, only fear. It was as if he had been beaten many times and didn't dare to resist anymore. The players looked solemn. In their perception, the other 4 prisoners in that cell were all above the Ghost King level. Facing the prison bully who stole their food, they did not even dare to fight back. It is conceivable that this figure who spoke out, how terrifying is the horror level. At least not weaker than the real top Ghost King. Otherwise, there would be no such deterrent effect. Think about it this way. Suddenly there was a rustling sound coming from the field. As expected, he was the first one to cause trouble. He is the biggest prison bully in the death row. I heard that he was the person favored by the 4th prince. He was thrown into the death row because he had knifed him in front of the prince and was considered to have evil intentions. I came here, but the 4th prince has been relying on connections to save the other party, so he takes it very seriously. He, who made that bitch attract so much hatred? That pretty boy seems to have suffered a lot. Being able to put your hands on death row is indeed enviable and jealous, but if you don't have the strength, you may not have a good time on death row. I remember, it's time to relax, isn't it? It's really coming soon, there are still 7 or 8 days left. A group of death row prisoners laughed maliciously. Lying on the cell, he stared at the cell where Shen Jian was located, his eyes full of malice. The player base was silent. Everyone looked carefully at the increasingly tense atmosphere. Want to cry but no tears. No. They had just entered the 5-star dungeon not long ago, and they didn't want something to happen so soon. Especially those who can be thrown into death row are extremely vicious. Once a conflict occurs, they have no power to resist. But if they don't help, the loss of a 5-star player will undoubtedly be bad news for them. Thinking. There was silence. Seeing that Shen Jian didn't respond, the prison bully stood up. He was 2.5 meters tall, with a human skull around his neck and half of his face covered in a layer of hard bone armor, making him look like an evil ghost who only knew how to kill. The momentum is very terrifying. The prison bully ghost grabbed the railing and squeezed half of his face out by 1/3. He looked at the cell at the end with ferocious eyes, and his sinister voice continued to sound, "Hey, hey, pretty boy, no matter what is behind you, anyone who enters here must abide by the rules here, otherwise, people who don't fit in will be easily targeted. You probably don't know that death row has a chance to be released once a month. You don't have to answer, but at that time, I will make you cry and beg me." Behind him is the fourth prince. No matter how this guy with hands and eyes reaches the death row, the terror level is the only basis for a life here. Without strength, no matter how noble the forces behind him are, they will never be able to quench their thirst. As for making small moves, with the endorsement of the fourth prince, the guards on death row would not dare to do anything to him. What's more, he is the top ghost king. How many of his opponents are there on death row? Because of this, he dared to threaten Shen Jian in this situation. The reason is naturally the channel in Shen Jian's hands. He can eat delicious food, but of course he doesn't want to eat pig food. Hear this. The expressions of all the players changed. The once-a-month release was most likely an opportunity for them to obtain a formal way out of death row. However, the words of the prison bully made them start to worry about this. Needless to say, this prison bully ghost has united most of the death row prisoners. If he only wants to cause trouble for Shen Jian, it will be really difficult to do so. Not to mention escaping from death row, he was lucky enough not to be killed. Now, the trouble is big. This is the end of being a good person. Not to mention the way Shen Jian steals the limelight is so special that he attracts hatred. In this case, what should Shen Jian do? There was some pity in the player's eyes. I had the opportunity to use this inexplicable help to contribute to my escape from death row, but I didn't expect that I was targeted because I was too ostentatious. Not only can't help him now, but life and death are also a problem. This 5-star copy is indeed terrifying. Just a random ghost could kill the player. At this time, the screams of the prison bullies continued. "Hey, pretty boy, just look forward to it. These 10 days will be the last days you can enjoy in your life. Don't treat yourself badly. Eat and drink well. You won't have such an opportunity in the future." The words just fell. Crunch. The cell door was pushed open. Shen Jian walked out of the single room and walked straight towards Yubagoi's cell. Stopped directly in front of him. A group of players. Ghosts. Prison bully ghost. This moment, the whole place fell silent. Everyone looked at Shen Jian, who walked out of the cell in disbelief. "Damn it! How the hell did you get out? Isn't there some kind of special supernatural power that has been cast on this cell? Once you forcefully break out of the cell without a key, an alarm will be triggered, triggering a fatal supernatural power and causing death on the spot. Why is this guy okay? Why no alert?" The prison bully ghost was a little confused. How did you come out?" Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He raised a bunch of keys in his hand. "Open it with the key." Prison bully ghost. He was a little crazy. "Can you be more calm and calm? God opened it with a key. Is this the question I'm asking? How do you, a death row inmate, have the key to death row? With this, isn't it like trying to escape from jail? So what's the point of locking you here? Is it just to allow you to come out anytime and anywhere and experience the special customs? Grass. That's too much. At most, having hands and eyes can make your material life richer. When will you be able to get out of death row on your own? The son of the warden on death row would not be treated like this. See this." The smile on Shen Jian's face grew wider. These keys were naturally given to him by the group of maids before they left. His suspicions were right. The eldest Princess Miao Lin really took control of this death row. Even the keys to death row prisoners can be handed over to him casually. This gave Shen Jian the feeling of a power dog for the first time. Working with Her Royal Highness the Princess is truly a rare experience. Just thinking about it? Shen Jian took out the key and opened the door of Yubagui's cell. Went in. You just said, what will happen to me next? I want to hear it. Shen Jian grinned. He looked straight at the prison bully ghost, the malice on his face also unable to be concealed. Prison bully ghost. He was surprised at first. Shen Jian was frightened by Shen Jian's very abnormal method of reaching the sky with his hands and eyes, but then he thought about it, it doesn't matter if his hands and eyes can reach the sky. As long as he is not the emperor's biological son, what should he be afraid of with the support of the fourth prince? This guy's biggest mistake was opening the door to his cell and walking inside. Otherwise, if Shen Jian was provoking outside, he would really have no choice. Haha, you are overconfident. Although I don't know how you did it, if I catch you, everything will be known. You also secretly handed over the key to the death row to a prisoner. If this matter is revealed, not only will you be killed, the forces behind you must also finish together. With this achievement, I will be able to go out soon. The more he talks, the prison bully ghost became more and more excited. The big hand covered with bone armor was already grabbing at Shen Jian. In his opinion, this is not a death row prisoner, it is clearly his merit and the proof of his escape from death row. With this contribution, his status in the eyes of the fourth prince will rise to a higher level. You are truly my lucky star. Hear this. Shen Jian responded with a caring smile. Then kicked him up. The whole prison bully ghost smashed against the wall. See this? Shen Jian smiled sarcastically and took out a black steel rod. A fat beating. Screams echoed throughout the death row. Heard movement. Two jailers stepped forward to check the situation and cursed angrily, who dares to fight? Don't you know that private fights are not allowed in death row? Violators will be pulled out and locked up in a dark ghost land to experience death in advance. While talking, the jailer came to the scene. He saw Shen Jian holding a steel rod and unilaterally beating the prison bully ghost, who was tall, nearly 2.5 meters tall and was known as a humanoid ferocious beast. The prison bully ghost also saw the two jailers. He was so embarrassed that he seemed to have seen a savior and begged for help. Help me, he wants to beat me to death. I am a member of the fourth prince. If I die, you will not be able to survive. Let's go. Two jailers. They saw Shen Jian's appearance clearly. I also saw that the cell at the end of the corridor had been opened. Then one of the jailers scratched his head, turned around and asked, strange, wasn't there still movement just now? Why has the movement disappeared now? Did you hear anything? The words fell. Bang bang bang. Ah! The other jailer's mouth twitched slightly, but he still opened his mouth and said, no, there was no sound. We must have heard it wrong just now. Did you hear that correctly? Bang bang bang. I did hear it wrong, then go back. The two jailers looked at each other. As if he didn't hear the prison bully ghost's cry for help at all, he turned and left. This scene. Everyone present had their mouths open. It was like seeing a ghost. It's so fake. Even if you are deaf, you should have seen the scene. Even a blind man should have heard the screams. Even if he is deaf and blind, he should still be able to sense these violent supernatural fluctuations. Your efforts to tell lies are over. What is the background of this guy? No one even cares about beating prisoners on death row. Isn't even a place like this immune to being tainted by power? It's too dark. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 700. At this time, there was complete silence in the entire death row. Everyone was staring blankly at the dark scene of collusion between the powerful and powerful, feeling only sad in their hearts. It's over. Even such a place has been corrupted by power. A death row inmate not only held the cell key to enter and exit the death cell freely, but also beat other prisoners openly, and even the guards who maintained order turned a blind eye to it all. Doesn't this mean that they are not safe here? As long as Shen Jian wants to beat them, they can only accept their fate? Crooked son. If you let in a lawless dude, will you be able to live a good life from now on? Even the prison bully Ghost, who relied on the support of the fourth prince, was not strong in terms of tyranny. For a while, the clouds are gloomy and everyone is in danger. However, unlike the fearful reactions of the death row prisoners, the players were dumbfounded. Everyone stared at all this with wide eyes and disbelief. Is this a player? Is this horse a human player? Damn it! Don't make trouble. How could a player who had only entered the dungeon a few hours ago and was still being held in a cell under their eyes do all this? It's okay to eat fine food in the death row, but now it's so outrageous that he opens the door with a key and beats other evil prisoners. For those who don't know, they thought that Shen Jian had been locked up here for a long time and had developed the death row into his own. People treat it as their own home. Oh my god, how did he do it? It has always been the case that players are bullied by ghosts. When will it be our players' turn to beat up ghosts? Maybe I was so violent that I saw hallucinations. In fact, the one who was beaten was our player, right? Everyone was talking a lot. Everyone seemed to have seen a ghost. Are 5-star players already so arrogant and unreasonable? Immediately, many players looked at the sloppy man with the ID King Quan. Their eyes seemed to say, "You are also a 5-star player, don't you have the privilege to show us?" King Quan. His eyes were covered by the long hair on his forehead. Looking at Shen Jian's bizarre scene, his dead expression also showed some waves. Do 5-star players have privileges? Why didn't he know about this? Moment. He spoke with a hoarse voice and a low voice as if his voice had been damaged. He may have entered this copy for the second time. As soon as these words came out, everyone was surprised. Can the dungeon be entered a second time? No wonder they have such an idea. In the eyes of most players, every copy of the game they enter is a one-time use, and it is never possible to match the same copy twice. Wang Quan said in a low voice, 5-star players have a new right to choose. As long as they have unfinished hidden tasks, they can reselect the task-related dungeon in random matching to enter. He should have accumulated the dungeon after entering here last time. Got some connections. Hear the words. The players were stunned. Dragon Kingdom lags behind the Western world in terms of thriller games, and there are not even a few 5-star players. This is the first time they have heard of such secrets. This is wrong. Even if 5-star players can choose their own dungeon to enter, the identity implanted in the thriller game is random. How did he know that he would appear in death row next time and arrange this? At this time, one player asked about his confusion. Does the privilege of 5-star players also include knowing some of the main missions in advance? King Quan fell silent. Moment. Cai Hua said, without this kind of privilege, thriller games cannot prepare players in advance. After all, the purpose of thriller games is not to really help players become stronger. What exactly is that? I guess he should have made friends with some of the Qing Kingdom's powerful people in the last copy. He might even be one of the 9 princes. Wang Quan's words shocked all the players. Excluding the possibility of knowing the mission in advance, the only answer is this. The last time Shen Jian entered the 5-star dungeon, he accidentally climbed up to a high-ranking person and was able to reach into the death row and find out where they were coming so quickly. Except for members of the royal family, basically everyone there is no other possibility. And to be able to do all this without being noticed, ordinary members of the royal family are not good enough. They must be powerful princes who are qualified to compete for the position of prince. Think about it this way. They all envied Shen Jian. Judging from the current performance, the prince behind Shen Jian is not generally strong. Probably the one with the best chance of vying for the crown prince's position. This is the SSR start. Maybe, they can also use Shen Jian's relationship to join the prince's staff and help him win the battle for the heir. In this way, they don't need to fight in separate lineups. Think of this. Everyone looked at Shen Jian with fiery eyes. The other side. A refreshed Shen Jian returned to the cell with a satisfied look on his face. Walking back all the way, the fierce ghost prisoners around them all showed fear in their eyes. They didn't dare to look at Shen Jian at all, for fear that they would end up like the prison bully ghost and die in the cell in frustration. The previous arrogance were all dissipated under Shen Jian's arrogant and unreasonable violent methods, and he turned into a little sheep. To this, Shen Jian also lost interest. He was in no hurry to get out. After all, he had limited knowledge of the situation in Qing's court. Of the so-called 9 princes, he only knew one prince. Instead of collecting information himself, it would be better to wait for the eldest princess to come and tell him. Do not forget. He also has a side mission of escaping from death row hanging on him. He is not worried if the mission fails. But knowing that the horror game is against him, there are some rules that don't need to be broken. It's a small thing if the mission fails, but if it's sent out directly, it's a big problem. This is not what he wants to see. That's all. An unusual silence fell on death row. Many ghost prisoners moved their hands and feet cautiously, moving slowly and not daring to make a sound. At the same time, I was complaining in my heart, which idiot was the first to keep silent? It makes us afraid to make any big moves now. This is a death row, and it should be noisy and full of violence. What's going on now? I don't know if doing this will make that adult look down on us and treat us as his younger brothers. Soon. There was finally a voice on death row. From the outside world. The ghosts looked at it. A beautiful figure walked past their cell. In the dim corridor, an elegant yet majestic woman came into their sight. The woman is dressed in plain blue clothes, elegant and luxurious, with an invisible nobility exuding from her whole body. She has a pair of sharp autumn eyes that can see into people's hearts. Her slender jade neck is white and smooth, and her willow waist can only be grasped. Apart from the pale skin color all over her body, she was almost indistinguishable from a normal human woman. The ghosts salivated and swallowed. This woman can only be found in heaven, and is rarely heard of in the human world. Compared with her, even the voluptuous and beautiful maids beside her pale in comparison. Just like the difference between candlelight and stars is huge. Is there such a female ghost in Qingguo? Soon. The woman had arrived at Shen Jian's cell and pushed open the door. Seeing Shen Jian in prison uniform, Her Royal Highness the Princess lips curved in a seductive way. I never imagined that one day my Lord Warden would wear prison uniform and be treated as a prisoner. It's really interesting. She is laughing. Not only was he happy to see Shen Jian again, but he also teased Shen Jian's outfit. To know. This man, who was wearing prison uniform and staying obediently in the cell, had thrown Qingguo's face to the ground and rubbed it at will a few months ago. He even killed a powerful prince of the royal family in front of tens of millions of people. I don't know how much of a sensation it caused. At that time, he was as dazzling as a god. Even if there are ghosts and gods in front of him, they still have to hibernate their light. Now, such a person who stirred up troubles in the Qing kingdom really stayed on death row like a prisoner. The contrast brought about made her unable to hold back for a moment. Hear this. Shen Jian also raised his head. Looking at the unparalleled eldest princess in front of her. His eyes moved. The wonderful arrival of the eldest princess. Current status, happy, happy, missing, excited. Favorability, 71, ambiguous. See this. Something strange flashed in Shen Jian's eyes. My favorability didn't go down, but it went up. This is a good beginning. It proved that Her Royal Highness the eldest princess was very generous and didn't take the matter between him and the vice minister's wife to heart. Then, Shen Jian also smiled and said, Your Highness, I told you that I will come back to find you. Hear the words. Why are you looking for me? You were obviously forced in. The eldest princess Miaolin snorted in anger and joy. If you hadn't landed on death row, I really wouldn't have known that you had entered. Is this what you meant by looking for me? Your Highness, I can't control this. Shen Jian said helplessly. Stand up. He grabbed the eldest princess's jade hand and kissed it gently. Humph, did you go to the Eli Empire? You even learned this hand-kissing ritual. It's disgusting. I won't let strangers touch me at any time. The eldest princess Miaolin's tone was filled with disgust, but she did not take her hand back. Instead, his eyebrows relaxed. Obviously, Shen Jian's movements are very useful. But she glanced out of the corner of her eye. Seeing that all the prisoners on death row were looking here, they couldn't help but frown. Master Shen, let's go out and talk. This is not a suitable place for talking. Shen Jian nodded. Follow and leave. Disappear into death row. At the same time, a group of death row prisoners watched all this. There was an uproar. Your Highness. She is the princess of Qing Kingdom. Not at all. How can an ordinary princess have such ability? There is probably only one person in the entire Qing Kingdom who has such talent. You mean, she is Her Royal Highness the Princess of Daking. As soon as these words came out, the group of ghosts became even more excited. Her Royal Highness the Princess of Daking, this is the most noble woman in the Qing Kingdom. Not only is she unparalleled in talent and skill, she is also one of the most beautiful women in the world. I don't know how many Qingguo nobles are the goddess in the hearts of common people. However, such a high-status eldest princess actually came to the dirty death row to invite a man. It seemed that the relationship between the two was very close. Who is that man? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 701. Under the eager eyes of everyone, Shen Jian followed the eldest princess to an empty restroom. This is where the jailers guard the prisoners. Pretty clean. Master Shen, can you tell me now what you are doing here? The two sat down. Princess Miaolin said solemnly. Just talk here? I thought you would take me to a more private place. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Not that I dislike it. After all, his biggest motivation is already here, and it's not that he can't accept the bad environment. Hear the words. The eldest princess Miaolin glanced angrily, her eyes with a touch of majesty could not help but reveal a bit of the charm of a little woman, and said angrily, in this case, you should tell the wife of the minister that you are not here. During this period, she went to the prison every few days. She almost fell out with her husband because of this. If the prime minister hadn't suppressed it, the scandal in the vice minister's mansion would have spread all over the world. You are really harmful to people. Hear this. Shen Jian was not surprised. He has already maxed out the favorability of the vice minister's wife. In the eyes of the other party, he is much more important than her husband. She can even accept being teased by him in front of her husband. Not only her body, but also her heart can only accommodate him. The fairy forest that her husband could climb had become his. To this, Shen Jian did not refute. He just changed the subject and said, how did your highness know that I am here? It's simple. I already have control over this place. The eldest princess Miao Linfen said calmly. During the time when I was framed and imprisoned, I had secretly bribed most of the jailers. I didn't have a complete grasp of it. I just didn't want to give the prince a reason to hold him accountable. But your appearance changed everything. I no longer have any reason to stay in jail. As for the death row, remember that deputy minister? When you asked me to help investigate his situation, I repeated my old tricks and cannibalized the guards on the death row step by step. Although there were twists and turns, the goal was achieved. But I really didn't expect that you would show up in the death row. I originally thought that even if you came back here, you would show up in the prison. But I have arranged a lot of spies there, just waiting for you return. By the end of the sentence, her voice had become weak. Okay, let's not talk about this. I was interrupted by you just now. I want to know, what do you want to do here this time? You humans came here, probably under the command of Thriller Games. I have seen the palace. The record contains this incident, saying that every time you come here, you must complete a task before you can go back. What is your task? 9 Sun seize the throne. Shen Jian didn't hide anything and spoke word by word. Hear the words. The eldest princess Miao Lin fell silent. Moment. He was the one who sneered again and again, exuding a majesty different from his age. 9 sons? My 9 good emperor brothers. It seems that I am not among them. It is because I think that I am a woman and cannot inherit the throne, so I not even qualified to be a target of the mission. Just a moment. The eldest princess figured out the hidden meaning. Jade hands couldn't help but clenched. The mood is not peaceful. Because the meaning of a thriller game is also the biggest hidden danger in her heart. She is a woman. Since ancient times, there has been no precedent for a woman to inherit the throne and become a queen. Among them, there is one of the biggest and most unavoidable problems. Although the child she gave birth to has pure royal blood, in the eyes of the royal family, this child will always be an outsider. After she abdicates, the position of the emperor will be hers. Children inherit it from generation to generation, and no one knows what the surname of Kingguo is. This is the biggest problem for women entering the country. Not only will the royal family resist, but even the officials will not accept it. The resistance she will encounter is unprecedented. If you don't give up this idea, the road ahead will only be broken into pieces. Who did you choose? Princess Milan asked. His expression was a little complicated. She did not hope that she and Shen Jian would be on opposite sides in the future. In particular, she had developed some feelings for this man that she shouldn't have. You. It's the eldest prince, huh? Me. The eldest princess was startled. Of course, I said, I will help you. Aren't you afraid of failure? I don't even have a place in the thriller game. You can imagine how difficult it is for a woman to become a prince. Even if my achievements are far greater than that of the prince, I want to sit on the throne. The position of prince is still full of difficulties. Shen Jian looked as usual. Glancing at the eldest princess who showed a rare unconfident attitude, his goal was not just to be the crown prince, but also to be the emperor of the Qing kingdom. After all, only when you become an emperor can you get the imperial seal. Only then can you get the 7th dragon energy. It would take the eldest princess to ascend the throne and proclaim herself emperor. Certainly. This is just one of the plans. What if Emperor Qing could take the initiative to hand over his authority like the glorious ghosts and gods? If this was the case, he didn't have to force the eldest princess to become the queen now. But the position of the female crown prince must belong to the eldest princess, which is related to his main mission. If he can complete it, he will naturally not give up. Not to mention, this can also gain favor with the eldest princess. Why not do it? Think about it. Shen Jian stretched out his hand. Your Highness, The Eli Empire is rich in stories about knights and princesses. You can regard me as your knight. I will accompany you until you shine brightly, rule the world, and become the most noble woman in the world. None of them. Even if you die. Yes, even if you die, I will stay with you until the end of hell. The eldest Princess Miaolin pursed her lips and said nothing. Looking straight at the man in front of her who had promised to accompany her to death, her heart was touched. She seemed to know why the vice minister's wife would rather divorce her husband than give up on this man after meeting Shen Jian. He is indeed a poison. Even though he knew it was poisonous, he still couldn't help but drink it. Following such a man, the ghost life will surely be wonderful. Subconsciously, she held out her hand. Being held in the palm of Shen Jian's big cattail leaf fan hand, the cold death cell became much warmer. Okay, I have to fight for this crown prince position no matter what. Being held in Shen Jian's hand, she wanted to pull it back, but found that it didn't move at all. In desperation, she could only let this man hold her. Then he said, "Since Mr. Shen wants to help me, the first thing you need to do is get out of here. Don't you control this place? Can't I just walk out?" Shen Jian was startled. "This is a death row. How can I completely hold it in my hands? It's just that most of the jailers and wardens were bribed by me. Among them, there are still a small number that cannot be bribed. Those people only obey the emperor's orders. There is no absolute be careful, I can't act rashly, otherwise I will be shaken out." Shen Jian was thoughtful. Playing with Her Royal Highness the eldest princess's jade hands that should not be played with. "You have a plan?" Princess Miaolin nodded. "Do you know why the death row has such a multi-person layout? Because the prisoners here are all cannon fodder. Although the territory of Qingguo is peaceful, there are still a lot of disturbances hidden in the dark, just like the Black Lotus Society you solved before. Once this happens, the night travel god sometimes invites death row prisoners to act as bait to attract the enemy. The death row inmates who are taken out are already considered dead according to unwritten rules. Of course, if you can make great contributions, you will have the opportunity to be released and inducted into the Night Walker God. You will become a shady spy and be restricted to the Night Walker God for the rest of your life. This is the best fate for a death row prisoner. Hear this?" Shen Jian nodded slightly. It didn't matter to him whether he was a spy or not. "Is there any achievement that can be completed immediately?" Shen Jian asked. "Have." Princess Miaolin pondered for a moment and nodded. "Speaking of which, this matter has something to do with you." Shen Jian was stunned. "Do you still remember your execution of Prince Li? After you disappeared, there was an astonishing discussion in Qingguo. Your reputation as an envoy from the 4th grade town is unknown to everyone. Because of this, I don't know when, a mysterious organization appeared in Qingguo, called Justice Order, acting in your name, and to this day, many major accidents have been committed. Your reputation has been ruined a lot by these people. If you don't stop it, your killing of Prince Li will soon be discredited by this just order." Shen Jian frowned. "Just order? This sounds like a missionary organization in another sense. Any clues?" "Not yet, but I suspect that there may be an element of the Emperor's acquiescence in it. According to my understanding of Emperor Qing, he does not seem to be someone who would use such small means, but he is acquiescing to this just order to cause trouble. Even if there is no peace in the Qing kingdom, he can bear the price as long as he ruins your reputation." Shen Jian was thoughtful. The unusual relationship between Emperor Qing and Prince Li is already known to everyone. Regarding the treason committed by this powerful prince, as the emperor of the Qing kingdom, he actually chose to defend himself with death. If he hadn't known that Emperor Qing was a world-destroying ghost and god, no one in the entire Qing kingdom would be able to defeat him. He even thought that Emperor Qing was threatened. Otherwise, how could such a ridiculous act of cover-up be done? If it were any emperor, this brother would have been cut into pieces long ago. Now, a mysterious organization called Justice Order was causing trouble in the Qing kingdom. Instead of sending anyone to stop it, Emperor Qing acquiesced in the incident. In order. Just ruining his reputation. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. Emperor Qing and Prince Li have a big secret. Otherwise, he didn't think that pure brotherhood could allow a former master of Luo Fengtian to achieve this level. I understand, leave this to me. Shen Jian chose this task. Are you sure? I don't have any more clues here yet. It may take some time to find any clues. Her Royal Highness the Princess explained. It doesn't matter, I have a solution. Shen Jian waved his hand. The benefits of parchment are fully demonstrated at this moment. Okay, let me run it. Once you become a secret agent, you can join me directly. The eldest princess stood up, but was held back by Shen Jian. What's wrong? Your Highness, we haven't seen each other for so long, don't you have anything to express to me? Shen Jian blinked. He pulled the eldest princess and didn't let go. What do you want to express? Then it depends on His Highness's sincerity. Close your eyes. Shen Jian. I always feel that it should not be said by the other party. But think about it. Shen Jian still closed his eyes. A pair of moist red lips touched the left side of his face. Stay for less than 2 seconds and then release. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He reached out and hugged the eldest princess. He kissed the red lips with a shy expression. Your Highness, this is what counts as sincerity. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 702. The Other Side. On death row. Seeing Shen Jian disappearing here with Princess Daking, all the players looked at each other and saw the incredible look in each other's eyes. The noise continued. Holy shit! Is that a royal daughter or an eldest princess? What did Yama do when he entered this 5-star dungeon last time? Why can he be related to such a noble ghost? 999, that's so awesome. Although this is just a horror world, a large-scale 5-star supernatural copy named after country is not inferior to the ancient dynasty in scale. The eldest princess of such a ghost country, he actually came to the death row to invite a human being. Has he done something earth-shattering? Players are talking endlessly. Even if you want to break the rules, you can't imagine what kind of amazing things a human player would have to do in a 5-star dungeon to attract the eldest princess with a high status. Is it because the eldest princess is worthless, or is the ghost here really so considerate of her subordinates? Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain what is happening now. Speaking of which, the eldest princess seems to be very powerful. Did Yama choose her as the one to seize the throne? One player wondered. Judging from the current situation, the eldest princess's attitude towards Yamaluo can be regarded as a warm welcome. Even if she said that there was no other relationship between the two, no one would believe it. In addition, the main task of this dungeon is to select a lineup and assist the prince he has chosen to participate in the battle for the heir. They have reason to suspect that Shen Jian may have chosen the eldest princess. If that's the case, then he's finished. A high-level player shook his head. Although this is a horror world, in some places, the horror world is no different from the real world. Especially on the issue of women's succession, everyone has the same understanding. The emperor here will not allow a woman to ascend the throne. Those princes will not agree, the officials in the court will not agree, and even the people here will not agree. Yamluo can become one of the only 5-star players in the Dragon Kingdom. How could he not know this? No one he chooses would choose this eldest princess, let alone how good the relationship between humans and female ghosts can be, even for to survive, he wouldn't dare choose the eldest princess. Hear this. Other players agreed. Really? The main task of the dungeon has shown all this. The so-called eldest princess, no matter how noble her status, position, or power, she will always have to hand over these things when the new emperor succeeds to the throne. It was impossible for her to fight against the entire Qing kingdom on her own. Even with Shenjian, it's impossible. Speaking of which, we haven't found any clues to get out yet. I wonder if Yama has a way. How long has he been out? Could it be the eldest princess who helped him escape from death row? Hear the words. Other players also reacted. Judging from the dinner a few hours ago, the time is now close to 9 o'clock in the evening, and Shenjian has not returned yet. Even if it is a conversation, the conversation between humans and ghosts cannot last this long. The only answer seems to be the possibility of getting out of death row. Then, many players choose to ask in the chat interface. At King Yama, boss, are you out? Do you know a way to get off death row? We can pay thriller coins as intelligence fee. At the same time, outside death row, Shenjian and Princess Milan separated. Before leaving, he seemed to still be able to see that the eldest princess had a somewhat inexplicable and complicated expression in her resentment. To this, Shenjian's eyes moved. The wonderful arrival of the eldest princess. Current status, shy, conflicted, complicated, panicked. Favorability, 75, ambiguous. See this. There was a bit of a smile on Shenjian's face. When dealing with such a noble, dignified, and majestic eldest princess, you cannot use a step-by-step approach to increase your goodwill, because the longer you get along, the clearer the other person's attitude towards you will be. Once you are labeled as friend, partner, counselor, etc., it will take more time to tear it off, and even once you make changes, it may lead to negative effects. What he wanted was for the eldest princess to understand his thoughts from the very beginning. This is one of the best things to do for a woman with this type of personality. You have to take the initiative. Because of their personalities, even if they have a crush on someone, they will not express their feelings excessively. At this time, one party needs to take the initiative. On the premise that it will not cause resentment, unexpected intimate interactions will greatly increase the goodwill between the two people. Thinking. Shenjian looked back. I glanced at the side quests on the game panel. Then he took out the parchment from his body. According to the eldest princess, if you want to get out of death row in a fair manner, you need to make meritorious deeds, and then you can be incorporated into the position of the Nightwalker God's spy and become a shadowy figure. As for returning to normal status, that's impossible. Becoming a spy is the best fate for a death row prisoner. Otherwise, they will only be executed when the time limit is up. And now there is an opportunity. Find out the mysterious organization Justice Order. He is very interested in this religious organization that has committed many major accidents under his banner. I want to see if it can be included. After all, this is an organization under his command. As the boss, he naturally wants to take a look. Find out this righteous order. Shenjian said. The parchment reacted immediately. Black writing continues to write. Ah! Praise be to you, great, holy and sublime Lord of the underworld. I wanted to add dozens of lines of words of praise to the parchment to praise the owner. When I saw Shenjian's expression of frowning, the parchment turned and suppressed the excitement in my heart, and honestly used my precognitive powers. My name is Shenjian. When I saw this sentence, I laughed. I'm trying to find the mysterious group that damaged my reputation, an organization called the Justice Order. They deserve to be damned, they dare to damage the great him, and the equally great Lord Parchment is bound to find them out. Soon, I discovered something strange. There are actually two groups of people in this justice order organization. They belong to different forces and have very different goals. Moreover, the two waves of people are pursuing each other. I know that one of the groups here has good intentions and is a spontaneously formed justice organization. The purpose is to respond to what I want that's fair. The other group is pouring dirty water on me, using my name to cause panic in the town, hoping to ruin my reputation. I found out that there is a rumor circulating in an inn 5 kilometers away from here. It is said that this inn is run by my companion. It is recruiting people for big things recently. If you pass the test, you can successfully join the righteous order. Work with me. The content of the text stops abruptly here. But then, Parchment seemed furious. Wrote a few more sentences. Bah, I'm working with the great him, and I don't even see if you have the qualifications. Do you think you are all great Lord Parchment? Forgive me, great Lord of the underworld, I should not have presented such filthy words. The existence of these people is lowering your status. As your most loyal servant, please allow me to control a lower servant. Come and kill all these people. See these. Shen Jian was very interested. According to the parchment, there are two orders of justice here. One is formed spontaneously among the people. Is it considered a chivalrous ghost? One is artificially established with the purpose of doing evil things in his name and ruining his reputation. And both parties are aware of the other's existence and are looking for each other. And an inn 5 kilometers away from here is a base of justice and order. Look. It should be a trap. Once you step in, you can't come back. A sinister smile flashed across Shen Jian's face. No hesitation. Rush towards the destination. As for the clamor of the parchment, he ignored it. Soon. The inn has arrived. This is an unknown small inn. Not even a plaque. The environment is very crude. There are a few tables scattered around the hall. There is no front desk. It doesn't look like a habitable place at all, but more like a haunted house. Shen Jian walked in. There was silence. There was a bit of disgust in his eyes. It's so shabby, so shabby. How could his recruitment site for justice order be such a deceptive place? Doesn't this mean that he is poor and can't even find a good place to stay? Can't bear it? Just thinking about it? There was a sudden noise upstairs. The sound is very loud. Like someone was fighting. Shen Jian rushed forward. Fighting, that's not okay. Fighting in front of him, a gold medal mediator, is even more unacceptable. Following the source of the sound, Shen Jian came to the first wing upstairs. In such a ghost inn that was full of weirdness, I knocked on the door of the wing in a grand manner. Bang bang bang. Is anyone here? I am a gold medal mediator. There is nothing that I cannot mediate. If you have any conflicts, you can tell me to make me happy. Let me help you judge. Shen Jian shouted. He looks like a public-spirited citizen. At this time, in the wing room, the sound of smashing things seemed to have stopped. There was a sound of heavy objects being dragged in the room, and after a while someone opened the door. It was a young boy who opened the door a crack and poked a small part of his face out. Who are you? Me? I am an enthusiastic citizen who wants to join the righteous order, can't you see? Shen Jian pointed at himself. Little boy. He glanced up and down at Shen Jian, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but tremble. You are riding a horse and wearing a prison uniform, looking like an escaped prisoner. You told me that you want to join the righteous order? Why join in? Are you waiting to be captured? There must be something wrong with this guy. Don't get me wrong, who stipulates that wearing prison uniform means being a death row prisoner? Shen Jian explained. The little boy's eyes became even more strange. Wearing a prison uniform does not necessarily mean you are a death row prisoner, but you still have chains on your feet and you show up here in the middle of the night. If you hadn't escaped from prison, I would eat your head. He didn't expect that. When he was ordered to ruin the reputation of justice and order, he actually met a death row prisoner who escaped from death row. It's totally off the mark. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 703. At this time, the little boy was panicked. Because if this man is really a death row prisoner who escaped from death row, then his level of terror must have reached the level of the top ghost king, or even higher. Even if he is a ghost-level existence, he would not be surprised at all. After all, except for ghosts and gods, it is basically impossible for anyone to escape. So is he? The little boy wanted to cry but had no tears. I felt a little confused inside for a while. Following orders from his superiors, he pretended to be a member of the Just Order, and created rumors on a small scale to attract real members of the Just Order to surrender themselves. Even if that didn't work, he could also achieve this by turning the place into a ghost inn. The purpose of discrediting justice and order and discrediting this organization. But now, he met a prisoner who was suspected to be a ghost. This is a level that his ghost life cannot bear. Then, he was about to persuade Shenjian, but suddenly, he seemed to find something. He saw that Shenjian's face turned pale for a moment. At the same time, he put one hand on the wall. It seems that this action has no meaning, it is just a habit of standing. However, the little boy was keenly aware that when Shenjian put his hand on the wall, his arm also trembled. Looking at it this way, it seems that he was exhausted and unable to stand, so he chose the wall as a support point. He got hurt? The little boy looked startled. Wrong. This is more like a serious injury, the kind that is close to death. For ghost-level beings, a simple injury would not require them to support a wall while standing. Only those humans would have such obvious flaws. In other words, this ghost and God is probably so weak that he is not even as good as a normal human being. Think of this. The little boy's thinking became more divergent. Yes. Even if you are a ghost, it is not an easy task to escape from a place like death row. It is impossible to do it without paying a heavy price. This was the case with the man in front of him. Only then will they choose to seek help from members of the righteous order. In the hearts of most people in the Qing kingdom, the righteous order adheres to the concept of the wanted envoy from the fourth rank, and will fight against evil forces for the sake of fairness and justice. If he is innocent, then in this case, turning to justice and order is naturally the best choice. The little boy's eyes flashed with wisdom and he understood everything. Subsequently, his eyes looking at Shenjian became awkward. Join the order of justice, then you've come to the right place, said. The little boy opened the door halfway, as if inviting Shenjian to come in. He did not choose to take action in the first place. Because no matter how desperate the ghost is, he can kill an abyss-level ghost king in an instant. He had to test whether Shenjian still had the power to strike. See this. Shenjian did not hesitate. Went straight in. The pace is not fast. It seemed like he was moving, but the opponent's movements were very clever. Every time he moved, it seemed like he was walking normally. If he hadn't seen some clues in advance, he probably wouldn't have thought that this way of moving was due to serious injuries and difficulty walking. Just thinking about it? Shenjian said coldly, the red liquid on the ground. Hear this. The little boy trembled violently. He looked at the bloody floor. Broken. He was just focused on letting Shenjian in, and almost forgot that he had killed an ordinary citizen who wanted to join the justice order here just a second ago. He originally planned to throw the other person's body out later and blame the justice order. Now, this actually became his flaw. What to do? Do it now? What if he still has his trump card? The little boy's face was uncertain, and he was caught in a war between heaven and man. If Shenjian, a ghost-level prison escapee, could be caught, he would definitely rise through the ranks and reach a position that he had never dared to imagine before. But if it fails, in severe cases, he died on the spot. It could be as small as being noticed by a ghost or god. No matter which one it is, it means that his ghost life has come to an end. Only. Shenjian continued, "This is, ketchup, why are you so careless? It's wrong to waste food. Little boy." The corners of his mouth trembled wildly. "Damn it! How does this horse look like ketchup? The tomato sauce will be bright red when squeezed out, and even if it falls on the ground, it will be in lumps." The blood on the ground was dark red in color, and it rippled like water, soaking into the floor beneath his feet. This can all be admitted wrong. Are you so meow-like that you have never killed a ghost? Practicing hard to the point of ghosts and gods? The little boy was stunned. For a moment I didn't know whether to be happy or speechless. At this time, he stepped back, accidentally tripped on something, and almost fell. It was a corpse. It was covered with a white cloth. The little boy's unintentional move just now not only attracted Shenjian's attention, but also exposed the body behind him. Little boy. Damn it, I am a professional royal spy, how could I make such mistakes one after another? This is so abnormal. It's over now. The blood stain just now could also be interpreted as ketchup. So how to explain this living corpse? Subconsciously, a ghost hand bulged from behind his back and stretched out from his skin, intending to make a sneak attack before Shenjian could react. The other side. Follow the little boy's movements and look. Shenjian saw a corpse covered with white cloth, with the back of his head exposed. Is this, a dummy stand-in? Shenjian walked over. Touching the corpse on the ground, he sighed sincerely, you even thought of a fake death substitute. It's really professional. The expression, touch, and temperature are undoubtedly the same as the real person. Little boy. His mouth gradually opened wider. Can you be so humming round? You must be the dream master. If it weren't for the blood stains on my hands, I would have believed it was a dummy even when I was riding a horse. I took a few glances. Shenjian suddenly asked, by the way, I seem to have heard a quarrel just now. Where did the other person go? We will all be colleagues in the future. Don't make the relationship so tense. If there is any conflict, I can help mediate it. Hear this. A sinister smile flashed across the little boy's face. Although he didn't understand what was going on, as long as the escaped prisoner was not suspicious, he could still use his original plan to sneak attack and seriously injure the opponent until he was captured alive and prospered. Then, he pointed to the only closet in the room that could hide people, and said in a gloomy tone, he is hiding under the bed. Every time there is a conflict, he will hide and hide from people. No one can persuade him, but it is useless. But if he knows that there is someone new, if you join us, we will probably stop making trouble, and maybe, we'll even prepare a surprise for you. While talking, the third ghost hand stretched out from behind him had fallen off and entered the bottom of the bed from another direction. As long as Shenjian squats down and puts his head into check, the third ghost hand will be attached to the person's face. At that time, even a ghost can be forcibly controlled by him for 10 seconds. 10 seconds was enough for him to capture the opponent alive. That's it. Shenjian was not suspicious and said casually, it's good that you are still alive. I just heard the sound of heavy objects being dragged. I thought you killed your partner in the quarrel because of a small conflict. We plan to dispose of his body again. Little boy. He was shocked. Because what Shenjian said was exactly how he killed someone. You're so good at guessing, wouldn't you guess that the cold corpse on the ground was the sound of me dragging something heavy just now? Unexpectedly, an ominous premonition flashed through the little boy's heart. I always feel like something is wrong. But seeing Shen Jian walking towards the bottom of the bed step by step and squatting down unprepared, this concern soon turned into excitement. He could no longer hide the excitement on his face. A ferocious smile appeared behind Shen Jian. The next second, the moment Shen Jian lowered his head, a ghost hand grabbed him out of the dark bed. The speed was so fast that there was no chance for anyone to react. If there are no accidents, this ghost hand will grab Shen Jian's face, trigger a supernatural effect, and forcefully control the attached target for 10 seconds. However, an accident happened. When the ghost hand stretched out, Shen Jian also grabbed it with one hand. Use a little force. The ghost hand is broken. Its crispness is like that of Wang Wang Senbei, which has been crushed directly. Shen Jian stood up. He turned to look at the astonished little boy and grinned, "I found your colleague, where is the surprise you promised?" Watch this scene. The little boy was dumbfounded. God found my colleague. Are you confused about the definition of a colleague? Why don't you speak? Isn't this your colleague? But there is no place to hide people except under the bed. Could it be that you lied to me? There is no colleague of yours here at all. This hand is actually the one on the ground. Of the deceased. You are so cruel, dismembering the dead and hiding them. Little boy. He was stunned and dumbfounded. I have seen people frame people, but I have never seen people frame people face to face. You are too blatant. Do you dare to be more direct? At this moment, he finally understood where the unattractiveness was. This escaped convict is too nosy. Normally, a seriously injured person would have the energy to care about other people's quarrels. They would just like to count 1 minute into 5 minutes. However, Shen Jian showed abnormal enthusiasm. At another time, he might have noticed something was wrong. But under the temptation of profit and success, he subconsciously ignored the abnormality, and his mind was filled with the achievements of catching Shen Jian alive. Are you okay? The little boy growled lustfully. Why is something wrong with me? Then why were you supporting the wall in the first place? Why were your arms shaking? Shen Jian's eyes were strange. What do you think? Hear this. The little boy's brain suddenly went blank. The grimace became more and more distorted. You are lying to me, you are lying to me on horseback, you really deserve to die. He roared. Then he ran out of the window without any hesitation. Prepare to escape. Shen Jian laughed darkly, "Haha, I originally thought that you would send more people to catch me, but I didn't expect that you actually wanted to catch me alone, but it doesn't matter," I said, "I am a gold medal mediator, since one of them is dead, if one of you does not accept mediation, then for the sake of my career, you will also die." The words fell. Shen Jian moved his wrist, and the blood-stained ghost rope fell from the sky. Lifted the little boy back. While the other party was desperately holding onto the ghost rope, rolling his eyes, and looking frightened as if he had seen a ghost, Shen Jian smiled strangely. Are you going to break my 100% mediation satisfaction?